Good morning and welcome to the Kennet and Avon Canal. I'm in West Berkshire, not far from Hungerford, and my target species today are perch. Hopefully I'll catch a couple of twos, maybe even a 3-pounder. And ever since doing my last pike video on live baits on the Avon, I've had quite a few requests to do more kind of live bait videos. So today my target are perch. There is a lot of pike around here, but I've scaled my tackle right back to what you saw in the pike video. I'll go through the rigs etc. later on today, but hopefully I'm just going to move around casting a bait onto the far bank, and hopefully that rod tip's going to go over more than once and we're going to have a few fish to show you. Far from perfect predator conditions. It's really cold. It's about 0 when we got here. Daryl's down fishing the worm. We'll see how he gets on, but I'm just going to fish the live baits. I've caught some already. I'm not expecting the action to be as frantic as what it has been in the past. We have been catching nets of more than 30-pounder perch up here, but ideally we want overcast conditions, warm and a nice southwesterly. Today we've got an easterly. The canal is gin clear, bright blue skies, sun in my face, and I think it's going to be tough, but the live bait normally will wheedle the odd fish out. Catching predators from the canal in the winter isn't difficult. The problem you're faced with is simply down to locating where they are. So it's a good idea to take a walk and see what features you have. Where would I start? It would always be around the locks, because what you'll find is the pike and perch will push the bait fish towards these areas they cannot escape. Above the locks can be good, but in my opinion below even better. Here you'll see a few small bait fish moving, and if you look carefully beneath, it's absolutely black with roach. They are brilliant areas to head to in the morning to catch your live baits as well. Bridges offer cover and shelter, and I've had great success placing a live bait right down the edge of that brickwork. Other features to look for are boats. These have been moored up all winter, and then again you have some that might only have been there for a day or two. As you can see, there's a lure angler casting around this one. Even better are sunken barges that have been there for years and years, but in my opinion lock cuttings where you've got a constant movement of boats can be your best areas in the depth of winter. Moving on, rushes, dying weeds can be great where pike and perch can just lay up and ambush any small fish that's moving around. Fallen trees and bushes on the far bank again can be great. Confluences, here you have some slightly warmer water coming from a treatment plant, and in this case you've got a river coming in off the far bank. Anything that's different to the norm, like flashes, turning bays, need to be checked out. But if you get your location right, find those bait fish, you are almost guaranteed to catch those predators. Well, one of the first things you have to do is obviously catch your live baits, and in all honesty it doesn't matter what you catch. If you're catching bleak, then the perch are going to be feeding on bleak. Gudgeon, if it's small roach, it's small roach. And a great place to catch your live baits is around the locks and rushes. Get down early in the morning, you'll locate those small fish, they'll be topping. A few predators will be moving about chasing, and quite often if you get here before it even gets light and shine a head torch, all the small fish come up in the upper layers and the surface is just covered with them. So yeah, today I'm just coming down right next to this lock. It's a good area up above this lock for perch and pike, and I'm just going to see what I can catch. And there we go. That is, of all things, a tiny little chub. Again, looking at that one, that's a tiny little roach. Again, another small roach, perfect for the perch. Well, that's it. I've got enough now. I've got about 10 baits. Little roach, mainly a little dace and a little chub. That'll keep me going for a couple of hours. So let's get fishing. Well, we're away. First cast, I'm not too sure what this is. Oh, it's cracking perch. Absolutely cracking perch. Happy days. Over on the far bank that was. It didn't take long. You could see the small fish getting really agitated. And then the rod tip just went over. And we're into our first perch, and it looks like a good one. First perch of the session. Looked right in the top lip there, really lightly. Go on, get in, yes. And we're away. What a start that is. And there you have it. A beautiful Kennet and Avon stripey. That one's over £2, probably about 2.4. Let's get another one. Well, there we go. Another proper, probably a scraper 2, cracking perch on the canal. It's been quite difficult. Had quite a few now. This is probably as big as that first one I had. Putting its fin up. Beautiful. Into another fish. This doesn't feel like a perch though. I've had 5 or 6 perch now, and obviously, as you can see, this is something a little bit bigger. It's not going to be my first pike either. I've had, I think, 5 pike now. So, half a dozen lovely perch. That first one was the biggest one. Yep. Oh, he's been in the wars as well, that one has. So, yeah, slightly bigger pike than what I've had earlier. You can get pestered by these. You put them back, you hook them, you put them back, and they go and take your life back again. And sometimes you literally just have to move on, go to the next swim. As you can see, that rod's got plenty of power in it. Making a good account for itself. He's been in the wars, and that hook is right in the scissors there, literally where I said 9 times out of 10 you will hook them. Got to be careful around here because of dog shit, fucking loads of it. But there you have it, Kennet and Avon pike, and there is the hook. You don't need forceps. Pike on the lives, on the perch kit. Good fun, but not exactly what I want. Let's get him back. Hopefully we won't get any more, but I know we will. Right, let's run through the tackle I'm using to catch these perch up on the canal. I've got a Shimano 4000 fixed ball reel. I've got £10 Hydro Tough on there. Quite a powerful line, but we have a lot of pike up here. I've caught them well into double figures, so I need slightly heavier line than what I would, let's say, when I'm fishing for perch on a lake. I'd drop that down to £8 line. So The £10 line really just is because of the pike here. I've got a Corum Neoteric XS 13-foot power float rod. It's a 4-piece rod, which is good because I can keep my rod made up, you know, ready to go straight away. And you might be wondering why I'm using a float rod. Well, quite often I'd be using, let's say, a quiver tip rod and a 4-ounce tip and just watching the tip. Bites are very much, the tip's just going with the flow, and then all of a sudden it gets exaggerated as a predator approaches that bait, and then if it's a perch, quite often it just goes straight over. With pike you get a real drop back, especially if you're on the far bank, because the pike will hit it at speed, come towards you. So you need to be watching that quiver tip for the perch bites, tap tap wallop, or those drop backs. So you need to see the line when it goes slack. And the lovely thing about here, being a float rod, it is like a quiver tip rod. It's got that fine tip to spot those bites, but in the middle reaches it's got a lot of power and backbone to handle those bigger fish. Down on the business end, I've got a 3.5 gram Drennan chubber float on there. That float is set under the surface. As you can imagine, it's always trying to get up to the surface, but the lead I'm using, and in this case it's a 1/2 ounce bomb, is holding it down, so it keeps it nice and taut all the time, which is what you want. I've got a little swivel here with a clip, and that's simply so I can change the lead. In this case I've got some flow out there, so I might have to go on to a bigger lead, let's say a 1 ounce lead, or drop it down even smaller than this if I'm in a slack. I've got a rotten bottom there, about 18 inches, made of 4-pound fluorocarbon. So if that gets snagged, that lead, I can then, you know, the chances are it's going to break, I'm still going to be attached to that fish and land it. So I've got a quick change bead here, and that does 2 jobs. It allows me to change the depth or the length of the rotten bottom so I can fish closer to the bottom, but it also protects these float stops. Okay, I've got 3 float stops here. I've used a 3-way swivel in the past, but today or nowadays I'm using these float stops. I've got 2 nearest to that quick change bead, because when you get a bite and you strike, quite often if you only got 1, it moves down, you don't get the power in the strike, you don't set the hook. So I've got 2 float stops nearest the quick change bead and 1 nearest the float. And that means I can just adjust this, so if the predators are hitting the fish up on the surface or I'm in deep water, I can just move that bait higher or lower in the water, so it's all there for adjustment. And then in this case I've got a small swivel, and I've got one of these sleeves over the clip. Again, I can just change my hook length, so I can change to, let's say, a fluorocarbon, 6-pound fluorocarbon hook link if there was just perch in here. But because I've got pike, I've got a 10-pound braided hook link. This is about 10 inches long, 12 inches long, and it just stops me getting bitten off by those pike. Strike nice and early, you get it in the scissors most times, so that's not a problem. And the hook I'm using is a size 10 Gardner, I think it's a Talon tip or a Target, size 10 barbless hook. Very important to use a barbless hook for predators, because now and again you might deep hook a perch or a pike and you can get that straight out with a small pair of forceps. But generally when you're striking fast and hard, I only use 1 rod, because I'm watching that rod tip all the time, and as soon as it goes over or the line drops slack, I'm striking and setting that hook, and 9 times out of 10 it's in the scissors and easily removed. Okay, so I've spoken about catching live baits when you get to the venue first thing in the morning. That can be really frustrating, because dawn in my mind is the best time to catch, you know, predators, perch and pike, on the especially on the canals I fish. Getting there before it gets light, getting the rod set up, and then having to spend, you know, an hour or so trying to catch live bait can be frustrating, because you're really kind of like eating into that best period of when you should be fishing for your predators. So there are different ways with live baits. Obviously you can catch one, put it out, and then have another rod catching live bait, which can be a bit difficult, because I like to watch that tip all time, the tip of the rod all the time, striking as soon as it goes over so I don't deep hook. So ideally if I'm fishing locally, I'll pop down the canal the night before, I'll catch my live bait, and then I'll simply put them in a bucket like this, put them in the boot of the car, ready for the next morning. If you're going to do that, then you're going to need to get an aerator. I use this one, it's a Sea Flow. I charge it up on my PC, and then that'll keep my lives fresh all night and the following day. So you can do that, or you know, you can get there. I used to have a drop net, like a keep net with a drawstring, and I used to go up a couple of days before, the day before, catch some live, put it in the river, in the canal, where nobody can find that. And when I got there first thing in the morning, before it got light, I used to just go, lift it out, put my lives in the bucket, put the aerator on, and I was straight into, you know, fishing at that best time of the day. Little net like this, I know it looks stupid, a little net that you'd buy for your aquarium in home is great, because trying to get those live bait when it's freezing cold in that water numbs your fingers. So one of these, Lewis, my mate, bought one of these when we were fishing for Zander in the boat, and it is really, really a good bit of kit. Yeah, so in a bucket, I've got my little tube there, I just connect the aerator and away it goes. But you always have to have a plan B, because sometimes you can't get your lives in advance, or you can't catch them, you know, on that day. It could be just difficult, really cold, the little stuff just won't play ball, or it just takes so long to catch a live bait. So make sure you've got a good supply of dendrobenas or lobworms. My friend Darryl, he fishes lobs, I fish 2 dendras and a red maggot on there, and we seem to have about the same success. So a backup plan is to have some worms, so if you can't catch those live baits and you are in a swim that contain perch, you're not going to catch too many pike on these, you do get the odd one, but you can at least get the rod out for a few hours and hopefully, you know, catch some perch and not waste your time. And also, obviously, you need your red maggots to catch your live bait. Some good, nice quality red maggots, catch your lives. And a little tip is, when you actually got that sunken paternoster in an area, is just to ping over a few red maggots in that area. We've all seen it when you put some maggots in, the roach go mad, taking all those maggots. They're doing that exactly the same on the canal. If you can get that around where you've got your live bait, those little fish are coming in, a pike or a perch is attracted to that, and obviously it's going to take the easy option, which is you're going to be your live bait. Unfortunately, that, you know, that little roach or that gudgeon or bleak or dace, that ate a maggot earlier. And the way I look on live baiting is, if you know, that perch or that pike's not going to eat my live bait, it's going to eat another one anyway. That's what they're eating. So I have no problems using live baits, you know, to catch my predators. We're in again. I think I've had a bite in pretty much every swim I've been in. This isn't it's either a very small pike or a perch. It doesn't feel. Oh no, this is what you have to put up with a lot on the canal. Small jack pike. One of the reasons we use 1 barbless hooks and 2 a braided mainline. Again, hooked really, really lightly in the scissors there. Always good to have a set of forceps, but that's it. Tiny little pike like that, they're a pain in the you know what. And there it is, you can see, hooked really lightly in the scissors, where the action's been pretty consistent all morning. Daryl's had a load of fish on the worm, or a lot of fish early on the worm, and then it went quiet, so I went and put a live bait in the swim, and literally it went from him getting no bites on the worm to me putting a live bait in that swim and catching, turn your tail around, a few perch like this. So I've had about a dozen fish, far from ideal conditions, but great fun on the lives. It just shows you what you can catch. Turn your tail around. If you get your tactics right, your location more importantly right, and yeah, fantastic way of fishing and catching big perch on the canal. There's a little bit of footage I had the other day when a customer felt cold, went for a walk, and I had 2 casts and 2 perch. So yeah, can't beat a big perch, can you? Well, I'm just coming to the end of a few hours on the canal this morning. The rain's here, it's only about 3 degrees. The live bait, the sunken float paternosters, doing the business again. Got a customer with me today and he's had quite a few, couple of pike, couple of personal best perch. He had started off with a 2-4 and then on the worm, and then he had one of 212. I don't know how big these are. The one on the top is a 2. The other one's about maybe just a scrape of 2. But he went for a walk because he was frozen. I thought, why not? I'll just chuck a couple of little, have a couple of casts, cast a live bait, a couple of little roach up the bank. Looked, it went round. Happy days. So that shows you what you can catch on the canal if you get your tactics right.